It really does. And the beat goes on, right? The whispers roll us into this video here, the 954sports.com YouTube channel. I'm Matt Levine. Thank you for joining yours truly as we head into the weekend. The weekend's just coming up so quickly. You know, time flies when you're having fun, even when you're not having fun. Sometimes a little bit of both. I know my calendar, it's moving, right? And the world is going by and the beat is going on in the world of sports, unfortunately, with so much talk funneled off the field, off the diamond, off the gridiron, off the rink, and so on and so forth. Sports right now occupied by talk of social, political, cultural issues to the umpteenth degree. There is no doubt about that. And in the news this week, I thought worthy of talking about is a gentleman. There's no way you cannot, at least in my book, call this man a gentleman. If you agree with him, you disagree with him, he's a great columnist, I think, for the Hollywood Reporter, but he's a Hall of Fame basketball player on every single level, as he was once known as Lou Alcindor, his birth name, a basketball great in the annals of New York City high school hoops, went on to the left coast, UCLA, became one of John Wooden's all-time best, winning championships by the handful as a UCLA Bruin. Then he converted to Islam, and he changed his name, respectively, to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, known for the skyhook. The NBA's all-time leading scorer. I'm going to talk about some of the prowess and accomplishments that this dude had on the basketball court. But he was in the news for his article in the Hollywood Reporter, essentially asking, where's the outrage over anti-Semitism in sports and in Hollywood? Kareem took on a few folks in particular. I'll hit on that. And I have some quotes to show you from his article. Last week, of course, anti-Semitism in the forefront. This guy in the leadoff spot, revealing his true anti-Semitic colors. I know he's made an apology, so be it. But he's got some work to do, for me at least, to remove the label of anti-Semite. As you see it there, he was quoted as quoting Hitler. However, those were not Hitler's quotes. So he misquoted Hitler, but again, right? The Cyndi Lauper song, show you true colors. And they shined right through. So Deshaun Jackson, 33 years old, much maligned for his anti-Semitic quotes. Rightfully so. That play kills me for the rest of my life. The Miracle in the Meadowlands, 2010. Let's not talk about it. Let's talk about the subject at hand, the matter at hand. Another Jackson, not related, Stephen Jackson, interestingly enough, had a connection to George Floyd as a close friend of his. He was quoted, and he's been very vocal throughout his post-career, mainly as a basketball player, now representing the Big Three, whatever. And he's been very vocal with undertones of anti-Semitism on his social media platforms and so forth. Not the first rodeo for him in coming to the defense of Deshaun Jackson. He had some choice words. Both of these guys, this is the new thing, you just apologize, right? It goes away. Even though their defense is of having neutral ground in a world without racism, is what I would think. They delve into anti-Semitism. So to me, there's hypocrisy. And I believe the way I digested Mr. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's article, that's how he sees it as well. Let's give you some of the quotes. Now, you have to throw a dash of levity in every recipe these days. If you can't laugh, you can have all kinds of trouble, I think. So with that said, how good of a movie was Airplane? I think circa 79. It's a remote dropper. Airplane's on, I'm watching. Get a couple of laughs, maybe move on. Captain Roger Murdoch. By the way, heard this or read this a couple weeks ago on a baseball page on Facebook. That's where I saw it. Probably 3 or 4 weeks ago. They're about a month ago, which is usually 8 months ago. But anyway, Pete Rose, he was their first choice to be cast in this role. I could never imagine Pete Rose ever playing the role as good as Kareem did. Kareem played it as well as anyone could. Anyway, let's move on. You probably read the quote, but I'll read it back at you anyway. Do the best I can. Recent incidents of anti-Semitic tweets and posts from sports and entertainment celebrities are a very troubling omen for the future of Black Lives Matter movement. But so too is the shocking lack of massive indignation. Amen to that, Kareem. It is a troubling omen. The anti-Semitic talk, it has to disappear. The vicious cycle of anti-Semitism, it's on par, equal, and it doesn't matter which one. It's not a competition to see which one's better or which one's more insulting, but it's the same horse crap as racism. It's a cycle. It has to be taught that it's wrong. Can't talk about one being wrong and the other being right, or supporting one, supporting the other. Just doesn't jive. Kareem also went on to say, pointing out the hypocrisy, if we are going to be outraged by injustice, let's be outraged by injustice against anyone. I'm into that. How about Kareem teaming up with Bruce Lee? There's a whole side story to Game of Death. I won't get into it, but you talk about two titans. Bruce Lee died so young. What would he have been? His early 30s, right? What would his life have been if he was around now? I wonder what he'd say about all this. Wonder what his impression would be of Kareem's article. Kareem, by the way, known for the sky hook. How many guys have a shot named after them? Look at him there in San Diego, right, where the Clippers used to play. All-time leading scorer, 6-time NBA champ, 38,387 points, 6-time MVP of the league, 2 finals MVPs, 20 years in the league, averaged 25 points, 11 boards, 4 assists. As good as you get. Reach for a star, and you'll find a Jabbar. Absolutely. A star in this article. Also quoted as saying here, and it looks like, I'm going to guess, maybe when he retired his number, Paulie Pavilion at UCLA, not sure. After all, it's okay to discriminate against one group of people by hauling out cultural stereotypes without much pushback. It must be okay to do the same to others. Illogic begets illogic. How can you not agree with that? That to me is just telling it like it is. The elegance he shows on the court he's able to show with pen to paper or finger to keyboard is more like it nowadays. You know, it's easy to forget, I think. Not for Jews. You never forget. But when you spew anti-Semitism, whether it's this guy, Farrakhan, or it's this evil piece of dreck, excuse my language in Yiddish, that anti-Semitism and hatred leads to atrocities. atrocities we shouldn't forget, and genocide. The video tells the story. Sean Jackson, Stephen Jackson. This is history. This is what happens when you spew anti-Semitic rhetoric. Atrocities happen, genocides happen. 6 million people die. So in other words, watch what you say. Think about what you say. Think how you influence others. There have been a handful of athletes, there's not too many Jews, that have spoken up, like Julian Edelman and a few others. And you give them credit. But it's great to have a Hall of Famer like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So grounded in principle. Speak up. And take on these folks in sports and in culture. Stephen Jackson, Deshaun Jackson weren't the only ones that he spoke up against. Kareem had something to say about this one. Chelsea Handler. The only Jew I ever knew who publicly takes support for Farrakhan. You know what the Jews would call her during the Holocaust? What she would have been? How about this one? Capo. Look it up. Google it. K-A-P-O. That is disgusting of a celebrity as I've seen recently. As Handler posted videos of Farrakhan to her 3.9 million followers. On Instagram. Meanwhile, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar also had something to say to rapper Ice Cube. Ice Cube has been very vocal in his feelings on anti-Semitism, dating back to June 10th, when he had a slew of tweets go off. And in his day-long series, it involved some creepy symbols, as Kareem so aptly puts it, and images. In general, implied, as Kareem puts it again, that Jews were responsible for the oppression of blacks. So Ice Cube, yeah, he's had a lot to say himself. I don't think he really takes into account or thinks about what he has to say. I don't think he really gives a rat's you-know-what. But of course, as all these guys do, they fire back. And he certainly fired back on Kareem. As you see the quote there. Shame on the Hollywood Reporter, who obviously gave my brother Kareem 30 pieces of silver to cut us down without even a phone call. The reference to 30 pieces of silver is a nod to Judas, the disciple said to have betrayed Jesus. You know what that simply says to me about Ice Cube? He's not much better than any other anti-Semitic punk when it comes down to it. When he comes out with that tweet, he's an ignorant fool. That's what he is. Again, more a part of the problem than a solution. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar finally did wrap up his article in quoting Martin Luther King Jr. and saying injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. I'm into that. As Kareem says about that quote, let's act like it. So Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, again, you're a gentleman and a scholar. And I thank you for tackling this issue and being able to take on some athletes and Hollywood figures head on. Kareem is not afraid to simply ask the question, again, where's the outrage over anti-Semitism in sports and Hollywood? It's a question we will continue to answer, but Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, a Hall of Famer, for asking it.